Hey guys, Phenoxo here, and I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about a new game I got to try out this weekend. That game is, of course, Tom Clancy's The Division, although honestly I'm not sure what it has to do with any other Tom Clancy games. Maybe it's based off a novel of his or something. I don't know. But as far as I know, everyone just calls it The Division. That's what I'm gonna call it. That's what it is in my book, except for when I write down crazy game names in the YouTube title to get y'all's attentions. But before I explain why I made the title what it is, let me just go ahead and kind of cover all of the information I've kind of gleaned from this beta and break it down a little bit for you. First off, this demo is more of a demo than an actual beta. There's only 2 story missions. There are a few side quests which feel kind of repetitive. And then there is a small taste of an open PvP/PvE zone, which is where I feel like the real meat of the game is and what it's trying to hook people with. For all I know, the single player in this game could be very, very weak past that, or it could be awesome with an amazing story. There's a really nice opening cinematic that the game opens up with, but I don't know if that will continue. I'm sure some of you have played games before where the game starts off really strong and they put out a demo with that opening, and then there's no real cutscenes after that in the actual game until maybe something token at the very end. So we don't know about that. What we do know is that the game is online only. I'm not sure if they've said as much, but in the demo at least, when my internet connection hiccuped, the game would kick me the fuck out to the title screen. I'm assuming it runs on some sort of server architecture model like Destiny, where everything's feeding back to the server for all of your hits. Sometimes if my internet was being cruddy while I was recording, I would notice a little bit of lag between my shots and the actual damage popping up. So it's definitely feeding things back to the server like Diablo or Destiny. And as you can see here, the game's definitely a cover shooter. I am cowering behind this police car and just spraying bullets out at these guys every chance I get, sometimes popping back behind a bit to let my health regenerate. Now they've done something a little different than normal with health. There's basically 3 little bars. While it's in the bar, that bar itself will regenerate, but if you get knocked down into like the second bar, it'll never go back up into the 3rd bar again until you use a medkit. So it's kind of hybridizing the typical modern shield regeneration system with the older system of medkits. And you do have a couple medkits. There's a little icon indicator down there in the lower right. Right now my character has 2 of them, and the gameplay going on there. It's also very much an RPG. Everything has stats, from your guns to your knee pads to your gloves to the attachments you put on your guns. And not just like, damage or armor values. There are all kinds of little enhancements, like something might boost your handgun damage values, or how fast you reload assault rifles. Those sorts of things are pretty common on the green and up items. So it's very, very much an RPG. Also, there are levels. There are loot restrictions, so you can get an item that drops when you're level 4 that's a level 5 item, and you can't equip it because you're level 4. If these kinds of things infuriate you, this probably isn't going to be the game for you. But if you like the typical RPG grind, it could be good. The game also comes with a pretty strong risk and reward PvP section in the form of the Dark Zone stuff, which I'll get into a little bit later. I will say that it's pretty fun, especially if you're rolling around with a group of 3 or 4 friends. You can get into some real hijinks and generally have a good time. Also, let's talk about the controls here. They're generally tight, with a few exceptions. I noticed a couple times if I tried to open a box and I wasn't facing it the correct way, I wouldn't be able to open it up. Also, the recoil mechanic, instead of what I've come to expect in most PC games, where the reticle blooms and your shots scatter a little more. It actually jerks your aim around as you're shooting. I didn't find that very bothersome on a console, but with a mouse it felt a little weird and floaty, and led to me doing a lot of very short bursts to try to get over that. You probably see that a lot in this video. And I do think it's probably designed with a console in mind. The menus are all constructed to be easy to navigate with a D-pad. It doesn't really seem to benefit very much from using a mouse, honestly. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it does do better on PC than some games in the past, like Fallout 4, for instance, has a terrible menu system for a mouse and keyboard. I'm sorry if you love Fallout 4. I love Fallout 4. I actually played a lot of Fallout 4 on Sunday, but damn, it is not made to work for PC controls, at least not that Pip-Boy. I'd kind of love to get away from the Pip-Boy, just so we could have something a little nicer. Now, in spite of all that, the game is ridiculously pretty. Even on the Xbox One, streamed to my PC and recorded off of that, it still looks damn pretty. You can see that recording in my my other videos. I posted it a little earlier in the week, and it still looks pretty good. My only complaint was it had a little bit of mouse lag, but you know, that's what happens when your router's got to reach through two walls. Not mouse lag, control input lag. Input lag is what I'm looking for. Point is, the game looks amazing. However, I dare not run it at maximum settings on my PC. I've got the settings all cranked up pretty high, running at 1080p, but if I put them up too high, the frame rate does dip a little, at least while I'm recording. Now, I don't have the best system. I did just upgrade my CPU. My graphics card is a 780 GTX, which is still a really powerful card, but I wasn't comfortable with the idea of totally maxing out this game. My computer just would not do well with it, especially not when recording. But still, it's way prettier than most other games that I've seen this year, including other open world games like Fallout 4. This game looks much better than Fallout 4, even with some of the crazy mods I've been throwing on Fallout 4 lately. By the way, Fallout 4 has a CBBE mod now, and it's awesome. Skyrim modders will know what I'm talking about. Now, not to get off topic, but the cityscape is insanely detailed, and there's even plenty of interior spaces to run around in. For instance, right here I'm fighting inside of some sports arena. I'm not familiar. I think it might have said Madison Square Garden. Not sure. It's been a while. But you can just see there's a loving amount of detail in here. And there's a lot of detail in everything from, random construction sites to just like little stores that are abandoned that you can pop in and wander around in. Not every building is able to be jumped in, though. There's a lot of buildings where they just have these plywood doors that you can't open, or a regular looking door that you mysteriously can't open. Doors that you can't open will glow with an orange overlay, sort of like you see in the menu here, that kind of orange. But there are still a good amount of interior spaces to fuck around in. I know when I was running around in the dark zone, we wound up getting inside a construction type area a lot, entangling with other players. So there is plenty of that sort of thing to do if you like that. Also, you can go down into the subway. There's at least some subway tunnels or subway stations that you can mess around with. Now, I think I've covered everything I want to talk about as far as the game's basic points. So, why in my title did I say it's a lot like Destiny? Well, I mean, I've kind of covered that for the most part. It is a online shooter with loot and level grinding mechanics. There's a ton of different weapons and statistics to upgrade so you're always going to be grinding things to try and get, the next best loot. I'm betting there's going to be missions that are the equivalent of Destiny Strikes, where you need groups of players to do it, and where you'll have to do that to farm some sort of currency or drop chance to get some really good guns. I would put $20 on it right now. Another thing it shares in common with Destiny is that many of the enemies, especially the boss type enemies, are gigantic bullet sponges. You can sit there and hose them with ammo over and over again without killing them. This is basically the first real mission in the game right here. And the boss guy, you'll see him in a little bit. He has like a yellow health bar. Oh, I think yep, there he is now. I sit there and I poke at him, and I poke at him, and I poke at him through this encounter. It still takes forever to drop the guy. That makes sense in Destiny, because you're fighting crazy alien Time Lords and zombie necro-liches and, gigantic, horrible ogre things. It makes sense that those take 1,000,000 bullets to kill, because they're crazy, out-of-this-world monstrosities. It doesn't make as much sense when it's just a guy with a machine gun on a rooftop. You should be able to put a bullet in his head and kill him. So in some ways, this game's own attempt to be realistic kind of undermines it. It's on one hand, you have these hyper-realistic visuals and realistic looking and sounding machine guns, but you can sit there and take your M249 and unload the better part of your 100 bullets into somebody and not have them drop if they're a boss. I don't really care for that. I would prefer something more stylized. I would prefer, something either fantastical or science fiction, so that I could more easily suspend my disbelief. So it is like Destiny in a lot of ways. It's more fun in groups, for sure. In PvP and PvE. Like this mission right here is kind of annoying. I can poke at this guy while he's reloading, but then he'll just sit there and shoot at me for a while. If I had teammates there, they could be flanking around, or I could be unloading onto this guy while they're distracting him. There's a lot of different things that you could do to make this more fun, but when you're by yourself, you just kind of gotta cower and pick away at him. Also, some of the abilities synergize well in groups. The healing ability in this game, at least the starter healing ability, affects a small AoE blast. So you could sit there and heal yourself, and or yell for one of your friends to come over if they're hurt and heal you both at the same time. There's good synergy there. That's important and interesting. It's something you don't see a lot of in Destiny, for example, where your abilities are almost all purely offensive, with a few exceptions. The game also feels kind of like World of Warcraft, and this might be the biggest stretch of the comparisons I'm making, but there are oodles of stats to fuck around with in min-max. Destiny doesn't have that so much. They basically had, the 3 stats that affect your different ability recharges, and then your guns, have their stats, and maybe some abilities you can choose between them to tweak their stats. I never really felt like I had to sit there and gather up, things to enhance my guns or to tweak my gear to be, as perfect as it could be, like I did in World of Warcraft. In World of Warcraft, at the end game, I would always feel like I had to get the right gems to socket into my armor. I had to get the right enchantments. I had to have the right rotations. In Destiny, I felt more like, I just had to acquire some good guns. Maybe a specific exotic or two, like Gjallarhorn in Year 1, or Icebreaker. Really good utility guns. But I never really felt like I had to go do a bunch of crazy shit to them. In this game, you have weapon modifications, and instead of being just like, I put an ACOG on this so my sights change and I get a 4x zoom, like in Battlefield, it's like, +3 accuracy bonus or +4% to your optimal range. And I'm betting down the road You're going to be sitting there spinning in that RNG wheel like a little hamster, trying to get the right items to drop so that you can slap them on your guns, so that you can be as effective as possible, so that you can do the super hard mission or own everyone's ass in the Dark Zone. I don't greatly care for that. Not in a shooter. If it was more of a traditional MMO, maybe, but I don't care for that. Another way it's kind of like World of Warcraft is that there are elite enemies. They drop better gear. You want to go basically to the Dark Zone, which is sort of like a PvP zone where there's a lot of what I would call elite enemies. I'm not sure if that's the real name, but they're the guys with the yellow health bars and the little armor pips that take forever to chew off. It kind of reminds me of vanilla World of Warcraft. There was a part of Eastern Plaguelands that was just filled with elites, and people used to farm there all the time. So on a PvP server, there would of course be conflicts, and the two sides competing to see who could control it. And that, again, sort of feels like the Dark Zone, but not quite. And that brings me around to DayZ. The Dark Zone does feel a little like WoW, but it also feels kind of like DayZ. Because when you get loot in the Dark Zone, it's considered contaminated. And your character will put that loot in a little yellow biohazard bag on his back, right under his butt, that is visible to other players. If another player kills you while you're carrying around that little bag, they can take all the loot in it. If you want to get rid of that loot, or not rather get rid of, but actually decontaminate it so that you can use it, you have to go to a special point and call in a helicopter with a flare. When you call for the helicopter, it shoots a big ol' fuck-off flare up into the night sky and lets everyone around know that someone's calling a helicopter, where that point is, and how long until the helicopter's going to get there. It takes about a minute or a minute and a half for the helicopter to get there, and in that time, you're just kind of sitting there hiding, hoping that no one shows up to steal your shit. Also, it's really fun to steal other people's shit while they're doing that, especially while you're with a group of 4 friends. Or to be doing that with 4 friends and then have a group of 3 or 4 people come gunning at you trying to take all your shit, killing them, and then taking all of their shit, and getting so much shit that you can't fit it all on the helicopter that comes in, and doing the whole mess all over again. It's fun. It can suck, to get an amazing drop and then get screwed out of it by some rando blowing your head off. But it's really fun to run around in a group and do that. I don't know if it's going to hold up. I don't know if in the end game it's going to get ridiculous. I don't know how that's going to shake out. But right now in the beta, it was pretty fun. Of course, everyone in the beta was kind of in the same level range. You're only 5, 6, maybe 7. So I don't know if it's going to be worse when you have level 60s in there. It did seem like it was going to split it into different level brackets. But it could suck if you're in a level bracket that starts at, say, level 8, and then there's, a level 14 or 15 in there with you, and they just kill you for the shit every time. We'll see how that shakes out. Overall, I liked the game. It was fun. It reminded me of Destiny, but it's on the PC, so I can play it with all of my friends who don't have consoles. I like that. I am thrilled by that idea. However, if my friends don't buy into it, it's just going to be $40-some down the drain. I think the game actually retails at $60, but I got a discount on my pre-order. I'll let you guys know how it shakes out, but my advice to you would basically be that if you liked Destiny, or you like World of Warcraft, and you like shooters, go for it. You don't have to do the Dark Zone stuff as far as I know. There's probably going to be a single-player campaign. If not, just wandering around like a tourist through post-apocalyptic Manhattan is probably going to be a lot of fun. But if you're not huge on shooters, or you don't like your shooters complicated by RPG conventions, And when I say complicated by RPG conventions, I mean in a way more so than Fallout 4, which I feel like is more of a shooter than an RPG. It's more of a shooter than this game. Or if you hate cover-based shooters, don't get it. Don't get it in that case. But thank you for putting up with my rambling, and go ahead and smack that like, comment, subscribe, or fuck off button, whatever you want to do. I appreciate you listening to me thus far, and I'll try to keep some more videos coming next week.